Going live. Going live. I'm. This is a bit of an experiment. I don't know how do you attach a proper camera to the thing there. I'll end the stream. No, I'll carry on a bit. I don't think anybody's here anyway. I'm getting drunk actually. Having some port. The lighting is bloody awful. How about that? That's worse, isn't it? Oh, I look a terrible. I'm a mess. Oh my God! Look. Yeah, I'm live. I have no idea what to talk about. Life is a very strange thing at the moment. How does this work even? I have no idea how it works. There's a 1 there. Does that mean somebody's there? I don't know what it means. End stream. Oh my goodness. Top chat. Well, it's a funny old thing. I'm coming to you live from Somerset. I had a bit of a difficult Tesco order earlier. I'd ordered these 2 cottage cheese. 2 cottage cheeses. Oh my God, there's a 3 there. Hey, hi. Hello, Scott. How are you doing? How do you invite people on to chat? Are other people able to chat with a microphone or anything like that? I've never done this before. I've no idea what I'm doing. Hi, Scott. Lovely to see you here. I think you're in America, aren't you? And I don't know what time it is over there. I think it's either like 5, 6, or maybe even 8 hours, depending on where you are. I know I had a friend in San Diego, and she was Maxine. She was like 8 hours behind in California, but I think it's 5 hours on the East Coast, isn't it? So I've no idea what I'm doing with this live thing, and the camera's terrible, isn't it? How do you? I need to look into this. Oh my God, people are actually joining. It's strange. Well, thank you for coming. I might stop this in a minute because I have no idea what I'm doing. But I hope you've had all had a good day. Yeah, with the Lucy Letby case, it's just I've taken a step back really. I know people are Black Squarable said something the other day. Maybe it was just yesterday, in fact, that 6:19 p.m. GER on the West Coast, 6:19. So all right, so you're like 11 hours, 5 hours behind. Thank you, Sandra. Thanks very much for being here. I've no idea what I'm doing with this live thing. I think it'd be great to be able to connect a different camera, but I don't know how you do it. I've watched other people's live things. I don't know how they do them. But yeah, the case is very, as Black Squarable said, the case is very, so much is coming out at once now. It's hard to keep up. It's just this flow that's coming from the Thirlwall inquiry, and it's very, very hard to keep up with it all, isn't it? And to really read between the lines of what people are saying. That's why I linked recently. I linked that resource that Jabe has created. Jabe's Allowed, and Jabe created the resource of all the easy to quote from and easy to read Thirlwall documents, and well, not so much the documents. The documents are linked, and Jabe, who I believe is a she created all the testimony, all in date order, and put it into this easy to read and easy to cut and paste from document type of thing. So that's great. What do people do on lives? I have no idea. I hope you've all had a good day anyway. I've just been I was just talking about my Tesco order. Oh, Scott, what is Scott saying here? Yeah, on your mental health. No, it absolutely is, Scott. And it has been since last last August, end of July, beginning of last August. There was a time when it was the first thing I thought of in the morning. I'm not quite like that at the moment, because you just can't do that over that. You just can't. It's just overwhelming. It's when I first came across it, because I hadn't really followed it before, and I hadn't been reading newspapers, and I just thought, the feeling I had was just horror. It was a kind of sense of horror, and like you say, it's doing a number on your mental health. Yeah, it's affected me like that, and I think it's affected a lot of people like that. And people I've spoken to in different groups and on Twitter when I've been on there, but I haven't been on there for a bit, who are, including people who've worked, as nurses and other mental health, not mental health, sorry, other healthcare professional positions. They're haunted by it as well. They're really upset by it, because they know it could happen to anyone, and that's why there's that group. It's called, under Twitter, it's called 19 Nurses, and because they were originally the 19 nurses that signed this letter, but it's an invitation for as many healthcare professionals currently practicing or previously practicing to sign this letter, and that eventually will be taken to or handed over to the government. But then that's another story, the government. So that's another thing entirely. But I don't know where it's all going, to be honest. It's how do you invite? Can other people speak on this? How do you invite? Can you invite other people to speak if they want to? I don't know how you do it. Share. What does that mean? Share. No, that's sharing that. Because I've seen streams in which people, it's on slow mode. How do I change that? I don't know what I'm doing. Edit. I've got to, I'm just having a little look. Sorry about this, because I'm just completely new to this. Slow mode. What does that mean? It's a bit embarrassing, but I'm a Luddite. I'm a Luddite. Cancel. I don't know how to do that. Welcome to live chat. Slow mode is on. Send a message every minute. That seems a bit... Oh, there's another message. Did you see that Gibbs and Harkness, Dr. Harkness, were both on duty for most of the deaths? Well, yeah, I'd heard they were for some. I didn't realise it was most. And you don't think Breer is covering for Gibbs' incompetence too? There's all kinds of dynamics working there between those consultants that were happening at the time and that are happening in retrospect. And what those dynamics are precisely, I really don't know. But Gibbs is very strange, Stuart Gillam did a really good video about Gibbs saying, there hasn't been a death in 7 years after Lucy Letby left the unit, and that's definitively not true. But as I say, I'm trying to get the stats for different years, but it's proving very difficult. And in Stuart Gillam's video, in which he brings up the Embrace data, which is that mother and baby, it's a separate organisation affiliated to Oxford University, I think. The problem with that is, and he's done brilliant work, Stuart, there. I'm not knocking him in any way at all. I think he's fantastic. It's great how he does these videos. But with Embrace, because I wrote to them and I asked them, is your information definitively about where babies have sadly passed away? And it's not. It's their data is wholly based on where babies are born. So yes, you can potentially infer a certain amount, but it's not definitive. Why I'm bringing that up is because Gibbs said, and in Stuart Gillam's video, he's got Gibbs saying there wasn't a single death since Lucy. No, there's one death since Lucy left the unit. I mean, in point of fact, there was one the very next month in August 2016. Hi, Robin Hood. Hi. I nearly said your name. Sorry, that I've got to be on the ball here. Hi, how are you doing? I don't know. Can you invite people to talk? And be great if it was a conversation. Engage with your audience. I don't know how that works. How does that work? Does anybody know? If anybody did want to speak about the case or say what you're feeling, I don't want you to just be listening to me rabbit on. I do that enough. But if anybody wanted to speak, how do you do that? Can you? I don't know how you do it. Just on the chat, I think. Well, thanks, Sandra. I've seen other live things in which people. Oh, I think they're using a special software maybe called StreamYard or something like that. I'll have to look into that because it would be really good if people could chat and they could come on and they could say it rather than me just wittering on, because I know I've done a lot of that. But to hear your voices and hear what you're. Obviously, we can see it in the chat, and I know that's great as well. Oh, that's when they have Zoom calls and the video. The room with all of them. There's another thing called StreamYard, Robin Hood, and it's not based on the Zoom thing, I think, and it allows them a facility to kind of not dial in, but just click a button, and then the person running the stream, which I guess is me or whatever, then accept it, whatever, and then somebody speaks, and then it becomes a 2 or 3 or 4-way conversation. Anyway, I'm just reading the messages. The consultant that killed Noah Roberts in 2014 also jumped on Lucy. I received a message about this earlier, or a comment. I mean, imagine all the lawsuits and disciplinary actions that. Sorry, I'm not sure what that word is. I've just had it with the CPS and inquiry. Yeah, I have as well, Scott. And this consultant, no, I might have misremembered this. Is this meant to be Dr. B or Dr. ZA? I think it's meant to be Dr. B, is it? Potentially. I don't want to misquote anybody. That's what I remember somebody saying, but I haven't seen any evidence of that, or a definitive source of that. I think it might be Dr. B involved in the Noah Robinson case in terms of the, where there was a mistake. Dr. B, oh, thank you. Why are some doctors given anonymity? Well, Sandra, with Dr. A, what we've heard, apparently, unless other people can say more, I'd love anyone else to chip in, is that what I've heard about with Dr. A is that it would cause him stress, and it was related to the fact that he had a family, and it was something around that. It was to do with his anxiety. It was to do with his anxiety and his current position and his family and children, etc. Dr. A being the person that's now called Dr. U for some strange reason. I mean, go figure why that would be. Why they've decided to call him Dr. U. It's like they're playing games with us, moving through all these vowels. It's just weird, isn't it? And did Dr. B become someone else? I don't know. Dr. ZA is someone else, isn't it? Dr. ZA is. It is confusing. Sandra. And Dr. ZA is the doctor that goes on maternity leave and that contacts Stephen Breary in 2017, apparently, while she's on maternity leave, and says, "Oh, I remember those tests back in 2015, and there was a test that we thought was just a nonsense test, just a mistake or an error in the testing. We should look at that again." And this is what I understand currently. This is what people have said as well. Other people that are looking into this, and then Breary kind of sits on that for the best part of a year, and then it kind of becomes his discovery in some weird way. It's like Chinese whispers, a lot of this stuff, if that's the right expression. But things get leaked out, and I'm not up to speed with Thirlwall stuff, actually, to be honest with you. And I don't know what Ian Harvey's been saying. I don't know what Tony Chambers has been saying, other than I think I read somewhere that the idea that it was getting quite close to the wire with Breary and Jairam in terms of their position at the Countess of Chester Hospital, with the idea, the idea of this bullying case. Harvey said, yeah, he didn't. Yes, that's right, Scott. Yeah, Harvey. I realised that before, that I think Harvey didn't think that, and I don't think they were put in strange positions because they were both forced out as well, weren't they? One took early retirement and went to France. I think that might have been Ian Harvey. Maybe they both went to France, but they kind of retired, or they were pushed out. And then you've got Dr. Jane Gilby. I think that's her name, Jane Gilby. Gilby, anyway. Dr. Gilby comes in as the person that inherits the chief executive's role, and then she's gone within about a year. I can't remember the exact span of time. Robin Hood, they are all saying they didn't have anything solid to believe the consultants. Well, exactly, which is hardly a surprise. They have even less than we do now. Yeah, exactly. There isn't anything. It's been manufactured, isn't it? It's been manufactured. My approach to this from the beginning, and it's sort of been intuitive, for want of a better word, or maybe that's the right word, is that not having a medical or scientific background, it was all about this sense that they've constructed this out of nothing. They've constructed it out of nothing. And what's the means of the construction? How did it happen? Who said what to whom and when? How did they all get on the same page in order to build this so-called case against someone? There's no evidence there. I think this is what is so shocking. If somebody said to me, and I think some of you, or perhaps all of you, feel the same, but somebody said to me, well, what's the evidence against Lucia? There's loads of evidence. Well, I'd say there's none. There's absolutely nothing. There's nothing at all. Sorry, it might be a bit bright, all that the fairy lights in the background. I might try and what's the comment here, Scott? If Lucy was guilty, the only people who knew and didn't do anything is the 7 consultants who didn't go to the police for 2 years. Absolutely happy with her just being off the ward. Yeah, exactly. It's not viable. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. It doesn't smell right. They were very happy for Lucy to be simply relieved. They wanted her out. They'd targeted her, and they wanted her out to fulfill some kind of psychological thing for them, because they knew things were going wrong. They knew things were going wrong, and they were maybe judged by it, and they just focused their displeasure or their concern or whatever on the one person, and it just built up. I don't think those consultants ever imagined in 2015 and 2016, when they're going to Alison Kelly or they're going to Karen Rees Oh, you need to remove you. Hi, Bumblebee. Hi. You're ex-NHS. Knew she was a scapegoat. Yeah. Did she report the consultant or something? Well, she reported them. Well, she effectively reported at least four. I think at least. Now, this is something. Yeah, suffering from his bitterness. So I'm sorry to hear that, Bumblebee, how that's affected you, but I'm trying to remember the exact detail of how many people signed this. I think it was 4 people signed the apology letter. It may be, there's this thing that Gibbs says in an interview. Was the pathologist called to the inquiry? I don't think he has been, no. The pathologist being George Kakai. He's retired, but you would really want to hear from him, wouldn't you? And thank you so much for turning up to this live stream. I've never done this before, so I have no idea what I'm doing. George Kakai wasn't. Yeah, she's been forced to suffer. Absolutely, Bumblebee. Yeah, Bumblebee T. So, Chris, was the pathologist called to the inquiry? Not as yet. I don't know if he ever will be. He's retired. Not that that should stop it. But moreover, he wasn't called to the trial, which was crazy, wasn't it? I mean, they're effectively saying, that he's rubbish, aren't they? That he can't get anything right. But what about the other deaths that don't form part of the indictment? And here we come back to the stats, which is what I'm trying to get information about currently. How many other deaths were there aside from the indictment? So the indictment has 7 deaths on it, which should become 7 murder charges. I think there could be at least another 12 deaths across those 2 years. Live trophy, yeah. Thanks, Wesley. I don't know. What do I win? I don't know. And hopefully another bottle of port. I shouldn't be drinking or be on the internet, but I'm still compos mentis. But yeah, so back to the number of deaths. I know, strange that he's not been called. Absolutely, it's weird, isn't it? It's weird. What's that phrase? He's conspicuous by his absence. Was the lab reports to do with the leaking sewage pipes above neonatal fragile humans? When was the lab reports to do with the lab reports about them? I don't know about lab reports. There was I can't remember his name now. There was he had a kind of Italian name. Was he Mancini or something like? I beg your pardon. I'm not deliberately misremembering, but I think he had a kind of an Italian name. The worked for the estates department of the hospital, and he was there, and he had reports to give over, and he spoke at the trial. But I don't think they've looked into specific lab reports other than what's been leaked subsequent to the trials, which was leaked through the Telegraph newspaper, which confirmed that there was Pseudomonas aeruginosa on the taps on at least 2 occasions, where each baby would have been endlessly swabbed. Well, this is the question I asked in a recent FOI Bumblebee T, when I specifically asked them across 2015, 2016, were there any specific tests done in relation to the pathogen or the virus, or however you term it medically, of Pseudomonas aeruginosa, and were there any positive tests done in relation to any of the neonates across those 2 years in the neonatal unit? And they did the usual thing, and they said, we can't, according to Carl Channel wants to link. I'm not sure. Oh, how does that work? I don't know how that works. It would be good to hear from Carl. Yeah, I don't know how that works. I'm just completely new to this. I did it on a sort of had a bit of Dutch courage, and I thought, well, I'll give it a go. because it's different. It's different from doing your own video into a phone, and then you can always delete it if you think you've spoken a lot of rubbish, but you can't take this back, can you? it's tricky stuff. Well, it'd be lovely to link with Carl, but I don't know how to do it. How do you do it? I don't know. There's all these buttons here. It's mad. I'll have to learn more about YouTube and how you do all this stuff. But sorry, going back to what Bumblebee was saying there about, yes, you would think so. They're aware of Pseudomonas aeruginosa from May 2015, and some people say on Twitter from February 2015. Now, I don't know why people are saying different dates. I haven't tracked down the formal source of that. Chris, have all the bacteriology reports for all the babies in that unit been seen? No, I don't think they have been. Well, I don't know who might have seen them. Are they available? Who's asked for them? Did the defence ever ask for them? Mark, MRSA and other swabs would have been a routine thing plus other tests. Yes, I've gone in ICU in the 90s. Chris, that's what I mean. Yes, you'd think so, wouldn't you, Bumblebee? And that's why I did the FOI, saying what were the specific tests, and I did specify Pseudomonas aeruginosa because of that recent newspaper report in the Telegraph, which confirmed that had been found on the taps. In that report, they said that they'd been found in December on 2 occasions. This is where I'm not sure where people are getting definitive information from, or if it is definitive, that they're saying that it was first found on the unit prior to what people are calling the indictment period, which is June 2015 to June 2016. So prior to June 2015, some people are saying Pseudomonas aeruginosa was first noticed on that unit and recorded there, but this didn't come up at the trial. And you've got to wonder what the defence were doing. Did they seek that in discovery, if they call it that? I don't know if that's just an American term. Sorry, I'm just rabbiting on. I'd love other people to speak, and it's great having the comments. If I've got to find out a way to get other people to be able to speak. Mark, as an adult, I've been in hospital. Swabbing is like an obsession in hospital. Yeah, prior to the COOF pandemic. Thanks for that. Operation Merlin Falcon channel is a very experienced USA man. Yeah, he's been recommended to me. Thanks, Wesley. Yeah, there's got to be. So, yeah, I keep not finishing what I was going to say, and what I was going to say was it's my fault. The FOI just comes back saying because of ongoing. I did the video about it, didn't I? Well, I didn't do it about it. I've just reported that they said we can't tell you anything because of the ongoing criminal investigations, or the other terms they mention, criminal investigations or processes. Sorry, I've got to catch up with it. I wonder what the defence was doing. Yeah, well, that's a great point, Scott. That's what a lot of people were saying, and people were saying that last year as well. So they've been saying it for a long time. One of the big talking points, as it were, last year was that people were saying, why did they agree? And this is what Dr. Scott McLachlan, I think he did a Substack about this. Was the defence paid by the NHS, or they coerced by NHS to be biased? That's interesting. Well, it's all based on legal aid, isn't it? Apparently, and there's a legal aid maximum, and they were even moaning about that Lucy had any legal aid at all afterwards, like she's not deserving of anything, which is appalling. Why did the defence not get expert medical witnesses, only the plumber? Precisely. That's one of the salient questions that has never been answered. Well, they had one. They had oh God, I'm forgetting names now. What's his name? They had the neonatologist. This is awful. I shouldn't. Not granted. Things are going out of my mind. They had Professor, what was his name? They had him there. They had him there. And he wrote a letter to the newspaper recently saying that he was surprised he wasn't called. Dr. David Hall, Professor David Hall, was there to be called, Sandra. So they had that expert. They had a neonatologist there who was ready and able to counter. Michael Hall. Sorry, I said David Hall, didn't I? Thank you, Tony. I really appreciate that. Just so many names, and I've stepped back a little bit, so some of the names are going. Professor Michael Hall of Bristol, I think he's based in Bristol, and he was available, but they didn't call him. And the expert is claiming is Lucy's decision. Well, that's nonsense, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, as though Lucy, who's been in prison at that point in time for how long? 3 years. She's making an independent decision whether to call a medical expert or not. No, it can't be like that, can it? It can't be. This is all the smoke and mirrors they're giving us, and it's always in the favour of the system to kind of put it onto Lucy, as though she's calling the shots in all this, and they've smashed up her life at this point. Before the convictions are brought, her life, she's been in prison for 3 years. You know, was Lucy in the arse? Yes, she was in the arse. She was in the union, and people have written about that and said that the union really let her down. I think someone's done a video about that recently. I can't remember who did it. At Chris, was the phone call not with the union representative? Yeah, the union representative did turn up at some of those meetings. So, Chris, the NHS will get the most powerful law. Yeah, that's what people were talking about last year, Bumblebee T. That in the courtroom, this is while the trial was going on, the latter part of it, that there were NHS lawyers like buzzing around the place, you know. So you've seen it with MH, is that mental health? Do you think they have Lucy's parents under some kind of gagging order? I don't know. I can't really speak to that. Carl. I don't know. I heard through a group I'm in, which I'm not supposed to speak about because it's a private group too much, but apparently that Lucy's parents are aware that a lot of people are in support of Lucy, as is Lucy herself, and so that's a comfort to them, I would hope. And they must be aware of all these recent newspaper articles, mustn't they? And there's been so many, actually. I probably missed a few in the last week or so, but there's been, I don't know, there's been about 8 or 9 in the Telegraph, and there's been several in the Guardian. There's been and lots of other individual ones. You know, last August on YouTube, there was hardly anything going on in terms of that, apart from this crime scene to courtroom guy. You know, sorry, I don't mean to be spiteful, but anyway, NDAs to MH, NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, yes, to MH. Thanks for your brave right to expose. I couldn't follow on NHS Wi for fear of repercussions for me. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, going back to that thing that came out, that some of the nurses that had worked, some of Lucy's colleagues were very directly warned, were they not to give character references, or not to offer themselves as character references in court for Lucy. I'm not sure how exactly that went. I imagine they weren't told you mustn't do it, but they were kind of given the message, if you do it, it's not going to look good for you in your career. So it's kind of coercion rather than stopping it. by kind of edict. What do you think about court scene 2 saying that Lucy Letby lied and said she was a single parent? I've not heard about that, Sandra, because I've not really I've not followed. I used to watch that channel, Court Scene to Courtroom, when he was doing stuff about a different case, and I kind of went off it, to be honest. And I don't want to flag off any other channels, but it's just not my cup of tea anymore. But I've not heard that. I didn't realise that he was claiming that. Oh my God. News that Lucy's a single mother was on court. It's a rumour. Yeah, it sounds like a bit of a rumour mill thing. I don't think that can be taken seriously. I agree, Robin Hood. I don't trust that whole channel now, and I don't trust the sort of world that it's created and the people that are around it. The reason I say that is because it's the same as who's that BBC journalist now? I'm forgetting names because I've had a few drinks. Who's written the book? Who's the one that's written the book? And also the Daily Mail journalist, because they're invested in the other story, aren't they? Sorry, I don't want to catch up. I know I'm gabbling a bit, aren't I? This stuff, albeit being a single mother, is insane. Yeah, I agree with you. This is the first report on the case, and somehow she's getting blamed for clerical errors. Yeah, they want to put everything onto Lucy. Wesley, I saw that too. To coerce staff in the NHS often happens. I've witnessed it. Hi, Christopher. Hi, nice to see you. Nice to see everybody. Yesterday, a live rumour. Moritz, thank you. Thanks, Trevor. Yeah, Judith Moritz. They're kind of invested, and they're professionally invested, and they're invested to the point of a publishing contract. I feel a bit self-conscious here because I know it's me just rabbiting, but your comments are fantastic, and I love the conversations that you're having there. That it would be great if there was a way to. I'll have to look into this thing called StreamYard so that other people can physically speak and get on to use their microphones to speak, and that would be really good. Scott, she said she hadn't even been questioned by the police on that point on Saturday. On that point, it was a report by HR, Human Resources. I'm shocked at that rumor. Don't stress. No, I won't stress. That's why. Thanks. Oh, that's why the port's helping me today. I bought this port. I probably shouldn't be drinking it, but it's very encouraging. What's happening? What's happened over the last 15 months has been extraordinary. To see this change and to see all these people, all of you here, and hundreds of other people, and doing videos, writing articles, doing a podcast. I mean, I've got to catch up with Dr. Michael McConville's podcasts. I'm only about a third of the way through them because they're quite dense medically. I wonder when you were going to do a live chat. Well, I've never done one before, Christopher, so it's all. I think it's only because I've had a few wines to give myself a bit of courage. How long has Lucy been detained? Her life's been destroyed. Well, she was first arrested in 2018. She's been detained since 2020. That was the third arrest, which I think was in the summer, wasn't it? So she's been in prison. She was detained in prison 3 years before the trial started. So it's been 2020. So that's 4 years now, isn't it? Best part of 4 years. 2020, 21, 22, 23, 5 years. 5 years. Or since the final arrest. So it depends what I guess the month. I don't know. I can't remember the exact month. The final arrest was in 2020, wasn't it? So that's when she was charged in 2020. Arrested 2018, 2019, and 2020. So maybe like about 4.5 years now. Years of waiting, yeah. It's just, It's been over 10 years. I agree with you, Sample City, because I think it's she was aware of what was going on, and we're coming up to 2025 soon, aren't we? And she was aware of the rumor mill going on, absolutely, as 2015 progressed into autumn. After what happened in June, and then there was a whispering campaign, and then eventually, when it exactly kicked in, I don't know, with these junior doctors talking about nurse death, and that's what comes up in her grievance, saying she was very hurt by that, whether that happened in 2016 or I think she was aware in 2015, towards the end, autumn 2015, that she was being targeted, there's this concept called gang stalking, which has got other connotations that I've looked into a little bit, gang stalking, but it seems a kind of form of that, but within a workplace setting. I've got to catch up with what's being said. 10 years of hell, absolutely agree with her. And the fact she wasn't allowed to appeal, but doesn't happen in any other cases. A setup from the story, bro. Yeah, well, it is a setup. It's a construction. In America, my understanding is, and other people have said this, is that she would have had an automatic right to appeal. Especially it blows my mind that Dr. Shu Lee rocks up to the leave to appeal and just said, your experts have completely misused my paper for all the air embolus cases, so called. And then down a little bit further down the line, Evan changes his mind for 3 of those cases and says, no, they were air injected in the vein, or maybe Lucy came in on a day off, so he can pick and choose. He can he's like, this might be an absurd thing, but you like in those fates or country fates in England, there's a tombola. You pick out something, you don't know what it is, and you get a present, you pay some money, and you don't know what it is. And that's what Evans's process is like to me. It's like a tombola. In other words, you can just make it up on the hoof. Sorry, I'm rabbiting. 9 years since it started. Yeah, it is awful. Have to go later. Cheers, Scott. Great to see you, and great to see everybody. And thanks everybody for coming on this. I didn't think anybody would, because I've no idea how it all works. 2015, yeah. The thing is, if you whistleblow, they're very good at twisting things back on you, absolutely. And that's what happens. And that's what happened to that, what was his name? Dr. Bolsin. He was an anesthetologist, anesthetist in Bristol. And he was a whistleblower, and the NHS, he couldn't get employed again, and he was completely blacklisted and went to Australia in the end. That was the only way he could get employed. The NHS wouldn't employ him again. Dr. Bolsin. Seems the consultants have had the power in the courtroom. Well, it does seem like that, and that's what you're saying there, Bumblebee. It's very much how I see it, and many other people see it as well, and I think a lot of people agree with that they're kind of given this ultra respect and authority, even in the Thirlwell inquiry, there's a differentiation in the way they're dealt with in comparison to nurses giving evidence, for example. Robin Hood says, I often get the impression she's judged because of who she is now, after all. Yeah, absolutely. That's a brilliant point. With the effect it's had on her, and not judge on who she was then when she was working before this. Yeah, that's absolutely spot on. And that's what so many people miss. And you've got journalists at the time last year, I was shocked by some of them. And they're kind of commenting on her affect, the way she's appearing in court. And as though they can't imagine how would they themselves be after at that point in court. Yeah, like 6-7 years of all this stuff she's been, and 3 years of prison, her whole life destroyed. What are they expecting from her? For her to be sort of completely on the ball, 100%, and confident and smiley, or raging, or performatively raging. Sorry, I'm missing stuff here. Hi, Maria Carol. Lovely to see you as well. I totally agree with your point, Robin Hood. Great to see you, Maria. And your live advert showed I'm subscribed and on your channel much. But hi, Wesley. Thanks for that. Hi, Astrid. Lovely to see you. Hi, Philip. Oh, hi hi in Montreal. Oh my gosh, you're in Canada. Love to visit Canada one day. Christopher says 1 point. Yeah, I know. Yes, exactly. I know. Well, it's I find it extraordinary, the whole thing. But it's as I'm sure a lot of you will feel the same way. Once this case, this situation, this story, this awful predicament that you can feel Lucy's in gets you, you can't. It doesn't let go of you, does it? I mean, I've stopped looking at stuff. I watched Black Squareable's brilliant video yesterday and mentioned it on a video, but I kind of hit the buffers a bit with it. But I'm going to get back into it soon. Thanks, Christopher. When the story of Dr. Wishart in Bristol broke about 30 years ago, that must be a different case. My dad was extreme high risk, like all the others he took on. My dad would have died when I was a kid had he not pumped my dad daily with thousands of pounds of increased dad's survival rate. He lived another 30 years, and I'm grateful for dad's time. Yeah, of course you would be. Yeah, of course you would be. Gosh. This notion of insulin poisoning has puzzled me. The drips used in such a setting would likely show signs of tampering or damage. Has this been looked into, I wonder? Well, yeah, has it indeed? They were meant to be tamper-proof, weren't they? That's something I'd read and heard in different places, that they were meant to be tamper-proof. Just notified Operation Merlin Falcon of your life. Well, thank you, Wesley. That's very kind of you. I appreciate what you're saying there, Bumblebee T. Yeah. Well, yeah, of course you're grateful that Dad was there, and I'm glad for that too. The trouble is, you cannot have a sensible debate about this without being shouted down by the mob or accused of not caring about the families. Yes, exactly, of the babies that passed. I care very much about them. Well, of course, Astrid, that's absolutely right. And it's a kind of emotional blackmail people use. I think it's a kind of manipulation and a false dichotomy that they're putting, if that's the right phrase. They're saying, well, if you're speaking on behalf of Lucy Letby, it means you don't care about babies dying. And that's a completely false dichotomy. And as such, it's a manipulation, and it's not true. And we all want, surely, don't we, people who want the truth in this, we want the truth for the parents, as well as for Lucy not to be punished for something that not only that she didn't do, but even more so that didn't happen at all. Dr. Wishart was a senior cardiologist in Bristol. Thank you. I have heard of the name. He would have not lived under others as too high risk. Oh, right. So he took you took a chance and then he gave your father an extra 30 years. Is that what you're saying? Sorry, Bumblebee. Untrue. Sorry, I'm not sure what that refers to. Untrue. I'm just going to pop to the fridge. I won't be a minute. Yeah, it's a bit. Oh God, I shouldn't be. I'm not sure what untrue. Absolutely. The point is, we want the truth, and I'm sure the parents would want the. Well, yeah. Somebody said this the other day about. Do you think the parents are wondering about Lucy's innocence as well? I wonder. It's something we just don't know. We just don't know, do we? Yeah, we do want the truth. I think we sense the truth. I think some staff in the NHS are protected. Seen it with my own eyes when big screw-ups. Yeah, Dad lived another 30 plus years. I'm glad for that, and didn't die from his heart. Thank God for that, Bumblebee. Yeah, that's That's massive, you know, obviously for your dad and for all of you and your family. Astrid Jones says, we care that these families have very likely been lied to. Well, that's exactly it. It's as though people who want Lucy Letby to be guilty or kind of have bought into that idea or need that story now, as though they think the parents would weirdly prefer that the story is maintained, that their children are murdered. That's a terrible thing for them to live with. I mean, if it was true, it would be a terrible thing for them to live with, but it's also a terrible thing if they've been lied about it. Sorry, they've been lied to about it, isn't it? They have to carry the burden that their babies were murdered. Sorry, I should have read it all. Your comments, that murdered when they were likely weren't. Exactly. Well, I don't believe they were at all. They were sacrificed on the altar of medical pride. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, it is pride. Or false pride and arrogance, and that's at the root of a lot of this, and narcissism, really. But I mustn't start, you know, psychologizing perhaps. Bumblebee, I've seen when parents have lost babies when I was working. This parent tried to attack everyone. Anger's part of the grief, yes, understandably. Is this annoying, me reading out all the comments? Let me know if it's annoying. I'm just trying to engage. Let me know if I'm doing anything that's annoying you. And trying to understand, I had an incorrect report against my actions. Right, yeah, because people are in grief, high emotions. Lucy's father was described as threatening and gun-connected. What? Oh my God. 3 days ago, really? See, I'm missing a lot of this stuff because I don't watch mainstream media. More wine. Yeah, definitely more wine. Yeah. Well, it's port. It's a drop of port. I don't drink that often, so it's Sunday, isn't it? But day of rest. It's interesting. Thank you. Yeah, I'm only reading it out so that I can try to engage with it directly as best as I can. I'm slipping behind a lot of the detail, the recent detail. Although I say recent detail, but it's really annoying, Mark, that you hadn't done this before. That's good. That's funny. Well, I don't know if I don't know if I would have had the cojones to do it. Sky News. I woke to this and actually laughed with wonder. Oh, Sky News. So Wesley, this is what you're saying. Lucy's father's is threatening and gun. Lucy's father's 79, isn't he? He's like an older guy, and this is another tragedy that's kind of unfolding. Is that how awful would it be? No, I won't even say it. You know what I mean? Is that Lucy's got to be released, and you know she's got her. She should be with her family and her friends, and her friends that believe in her. I can't remember all the names, to be honest, but there was that friend that did that interview that remembered Lucy from school. Is it Dawn? I won't. Yeah, it's crazy. I feel for the parents who didn't get the truthful answer, and it's clear it's incorrect info. Drink your port. You're doing well. Thank you. Thank you. Very kind. You're all very kind. Yeah, I don't know about the whole subs thing. I mean, it shocked me, really. I mean, I didn't plan to get involved in anything like this at all. I kind of remember it last year, and it was through the crime scene to courtroom thing, actually, because I was following his reporting of the trial. It was that was the genesis of it. I was following his reporting of it, and I started leaving comments. This must have been July 2023. Sorry, what's Wesley saying there? Please try see that on Lucy's dad, everyone. I'm lost. Yeah, I've not seen that. I'll have to look into that. What was I saying just then? Crime scene to courtroom. Obviously, massive respect to your coverage. Been too sick to follow everything. Yeah, well, it's. I'm sorry you've been unwell. I hope you're better soon, Bumblebee T. It's been. I've never got involved in anything like this in my life. I've never thought about. I mean, I follow stories in the news sometimes over the years, but it just, like a lot of people, and I'm sure all of you here, it just gets into your system, and it's very, very affecting. Yeah, I've got their hi, Operation Merlin Falcon. Good to see you. And yeah, I've got the lights in the background. There's the fairy lights. I think they're a bit bright, aren't they? I've got to work out the whole. I've never done a live thing before, so it's all. Anyway, I keep getting banned from Chrome Scene. Oh, do you get banned from there now? Keep getting in arguments with them. Yeah, I've given up with all that. Earlier on, I mean, like months and months ago, or even last year, I used to start getting punchy on some of these other videos and start going for them, but I gave that up. It's an energy sump, isn't it? And I couldn't keep doing it, but not knocking anybody who does, but it's a bit cultish over there. One of the most crazy things that I ever heard in the discussion section of Crime Scene to Courtroom was all the stuff about Lucy Letby buying a house deliberately by a graveyard, by a cemetery, in order to what? But they were making much of that. All the commenters on one video saying, well, she bought, you do know, don't you? She bought a house next to a cemetery. Sorry, I'm missing people's comments. I'm rabbiting too much. I keep getting banned. Yeah, victory. Yeah, well, there will be victory. People keep criticizing Lucy's parents. Stands up and supports their child. Exactly, and they helped her, and her father helped her with the grievance process. We've got to keep remembering, actually, that she's 24, 25 at this point in time, isn't she? She's 21, I think, when she starts working there in 2012. So she's 24, 25, and she's very close to her parents. And thank God she's got wonderful parents like that, helping her with her grievance process. In other videos I've watched, they start to undermine that, and they try to say, oh, well, you know, who as an adult needs their parents to help them? Well, why wouldn't you? Well, and why wouldn't the parents want to help their daughter? I mean, it's just the lack of humanity and the way people have approached Lucy and her family is just staggering. Yeah, exactly. It was getting out of control, Astrid, and that's when they stepped in, and the father was trying to help her. And that's where the father says at one of the meetings or one of the interactions he has, well, you're calling my daughter, they're calling my daughter a murderer. And you can hear that. You can hear him saying that. You can imagine that. One of the most heartrending parts of this was when it was reported. I'm assuming it's true. I don't think it's apocryphal. But when Lucy Letby was had to move out of her home, and she was finally arrested at a parent's address in Hereford, that her mother said, look, I did it, take me, it wasn't her, take me. You know, it was something of that order. She was so desperately trying to protect her daughter, who she knows is innocent. She gave birth to her, and her father has brought her up, and she knows that she's innocent. She said, take me, it was me who did it, to save her daughter's life. And this is the kind of thing people have constantly used, this not trope, but this allusion to the witch trial days, in which people were summarily accused of witchcraft, and other people would try to defend them, you know, who loved them. I wasn't aware she was suspected. First I heard was when the guilty verdict was announced. Yeah, I came late to I didn't know about the case building because I'd been out of Robin Hood. I'd been out of watching, buying newspapers. I hadn't bought newspapers for years. Sorry, I don't want to miss anybody's comment. Ravi should have invited his mum to support him. Well, yeah, Ravi, yeah, God. Ravi, what can you say about Ravi? I don't know how these people are sleeping at night. Maybe they're not. I've been very critical at the very least, of them on videos, but I'm wondering if they're haunted by this, and I'm wondering if they know that it's all wrong, and they feel they can't. They should morally, obviously they should, but they believe. Is it the case, I'm asking, that they believe they can't get out of this now? Because if Lucy Letby ends up innocent, what's going to happen to them? So there again, like Judith Moritz, like Liz Hull of the Daily Mail, they're invested, like Cheshire Police. They're invested in the story of guilt. They're so invested, and Jayaram and Breary, their careers they'd be over in every capacity, wouldn't they? Who would work with Jayaram ever again in any capacity once Lucy Letby is released? It'd be over for him, surely, wouldn't it? It should be over for him now. Thanks, Pat. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Hi, cup of tea with poetry. Oh, thank you. I've never done one before. Sorry, I don't know your cup of tea with poetry. Yeah, it's lovely to see you. I love your channel. I love your poems. I must listen to some more soon. I love how you do them. You live next to a cemetery, Christopher Smethurst. Well, I hope you're not a serial killer, because it's, according to the crime scene to courtroom people, it's a kind of a bit of a shoe-in. You're probably a serial killer, according to them. That's the received wisdom. Why is Lucy wish no legal knowledge not allowed support? I'm not sure. I'm sorry about that, Bumblebee T. I'm not sure what that means. Why is she not allowed support? Well, she's got the new team now, hasn't she? She's got Mark McDonald and a lot of people working pro bono. I think he may be as well at this point, possibly. Ali M. Hi, Ali M. The baby from 2014 that died when doctors mistakenly put the breathing tube into his gullet. Did he die from air being pumped into his stomach? I'm not sure about the mechanism of that. This is baby Noah, isn't it? There was a baby that died also subsequent to the so-called indictment period and Lucy Letby's time there, that was also resolved as a medical negligence case. And I can't remember the name of that baby, but that's something that happened in 2020. So there's something that happened there to do with medical negligence, as well as I think it's baby Noah in 2014, isn't it? Bumblebee's saying, sorry if I'm a bit slow at this. Am I a bit? Cemeteries are quiet, better than living by a pub. Yeah, she may be religious or have a connection to energy healing. I just think she just bought a house and it just happened to have a cemetery there. I don't think she was. But I agree with you. Yeah, but yeah, you definitely got quiet neighbours with a cemetery, haven't you? I like walking around cemeteries, so that doesn't make me a serial killer, does it? Hopefully not. Interesting point, Ali M. Yeah, that's a good point about the air being pumped into the stomach, because this is what's being debated as to whether that's possible as a mechanism of for a baby to die, isn't it? That a lot of people are saying it isn't, and that with this Neopuff thing, it was even a technique used, and that the air in the stomach would be expelled through other orifices of the body, as it were, and would dissipate, and that it wouldn't be, and that's why That's why Evans has changed his mind about those, hasn't he? He's changed his mind about those air in the stomach being the actual cause of death, which was based in the trial on that on that X-ray on the 12th of, was it April? I can't remember the month. But Lucy Letby wasn't working on that day, so he's had to retrospectively change it into, oh well, it was another one of those ones where Lucy Letby injected into the vein. When? Well, when did that happen? Dowie. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Maybe she'd come in on a day off. Would you consider making a documentary? Well, I think a lot of people have been making documentaries. I don't know the first thing about making a documentary, Sandra, to be honest with you, but I really can recommend to you, and this has been around for a while now, is Kerry Morris's video. That's Kerry as in Ceri, Morris Morrice, the first 15 infants. There was a full version of that, which was about 50 minutes long, which was very powerfully and brilliantly put together. But there's a truncated version of about 15 minutes, which is still on YouTube under Kerry Morris's. And there's lots of podcasts going on, of course, and there's lots of other videos being made. Ali, are they supposed to check with a stethoscope to check the sounds are in lungs, not in stomach? I think they believe she did do it. I can't imagine them convincing the police if they didn't believe it themselves. The police aren't that stupid, surely. I think they believe she did do it. Well, this is the tricky thing about belief, isn't it? It's like, did they kind of make themselves believe it? And then once they've gone so far on this train, they can't get off the train anymore. Once the police are involved, they can't stop it. They can't stop the train. Because my hypothesis or theory or whatever, too grand a word, but my idea was that they just wanted her off the unit, and that would have been enough for them, and the police would never have been involved. We would never have known the name Lucy Letby, in terms of the general public knowing it. And I need another drink. It's just we wouldn't have known it, and they would have just carried on, and there would have been some medical negligence cases, as were in the offing in early 2017 with that Chester solicitor. Sorry, I'm rabbiting. I need to get back to the comments. Yeah, I'm not sure, Robin Hood. It's a very fine line between did they need to convince the police, or did they kind of hand over? My conception of this is that they're handing over a baton, and it's the baton of their problem. And their problem at that point in time, when the police come in, their problem is, we've just been threatened by the chief executive with the GMC for bullying a nurse, and we don't want that nurse back. And there's this narcissistic kickback, this rage that has ensued for them being hauled over the coals, as they see it, by the management. The police aren't that stupid. I'll have to leave that to the side for a minute. I'm not sure. Superintendent Hughes here. Oh, Tom, all right. I won't do the. Well, maybe I should. Smashing investigation. It's smashing, brilliant, lovely, great. For people who remember the Bullseye program, smashing, lovely, smashing, great. It's been brilliant. Hughes is in the house. Well done, Hughes, and well done for winning that. Senior Investigating Officer Award. You played a blinder there, Hughes. Fantastic. It was brilliant what you said there, Detective Hughes, when you said nothing unexpected ever happens, and everyone's always aware when the unexpected happens, so everyone's ready for it. Yeah, you really nailed that. Christopher says we need some kind of spark which can be used as new evidence. Well, I suppose what we don't know because we're not privy to the conversations that are being had between Mark MacDonald and the people that he's very directly working with, is what is the material, what's the layout of the CCRC application? When is it going to go in? Do they feel very confident about it? There was that video put up with Mark MacDonald talking to a neonatologist, a doctor, and it was very soon, it was taken down quite soon afterwards, wasn't it? I'm not sure why. I wondered whether it's because they felt they were giving strategy away in some way, and it was a bit not politic to keep it up, you know. Wesley says, the FRI requests, Mark, can you sum up the significance of what you discovered? Well, I can say this, that one thing that's bothering me at the moment is that they're telling me they've got no information about deaths on the unit between 2005 and 2010. Nothing. Like they've got nothing. They've got nothing there. We don't hold it. And I would have thought it was, and I've spoken to my best friend who has worked in the NHS for the best part of 3 decades, and she knows all about coding departments when deaths happen and so forth. And she said, well, you know, it's got to be a legal requirement to have these statistics there. It's not an option. I know I'm getting a bit behind with the comments, so I'll catch up in a minute. But where was I? Yeah, they're telling me they've got nothing for between 25 and 2010, 2005 and 2010, which is mad, isn't it? Thank you, Cup of Tea with Poetry. That's lovely. I really want to get back to your channel and listen to some more, because it's lovely. And I love your comments about this case as well. And it's so, yeah, that's one of the things, Wesley, is that they're telling me they've got nothing there. The friend that my best friend that I was talking about, who's worked in the NHS, or did work in the NHS for the best part of 25 years or whatever. She worked in NHS Wales, and we looked up a sample Welsh hospital, and you can find out the neonatal mortality statistics straight off the bat. You don't have to do an FOI. You can just choose a hospital, or you can see them there. Early neonatal, late neonatal stillbirths. You can just see it there straight away. So there's a difference between how NHS England and NHS Wales are recording information and how open they are about it. But that's one. I've written back to them about this 25 to 2010 period, because obviously I'm not satisfied with them just saying we haven't got it. You know, I'm just saying, well, I've said to them, I've asked them, where is it? Who's got it? What did you do with it? Did you lose it? Did you delete it? If you did delete it, why did you do that? If you sent it to someone else, who is that person? Sorry if I'm rabbiting on too much. I suppose that's all I can do in it, because I'm on the live. Gosh, I wish we could know what her and the defense reasoning was for not calling the expert doctor. Yeah. Mike Hall. Is it Mike Hall? David Hall? David Hall. See, I'm forgetting names even like a minute ago. I'm just forgetting so much. Is it David Hall? Professor Hall, anyway. There's so many names in your head. Michael Hall. Thank you. It was Tony who said that. Michael Hall. Where was I? Yeah. What was the reasoning? Well, Astrid, there's an interesting point about that. And this is what Dewey, our friend, inverted commas, Dewey Evans, said in one of his interviews, or it was reported somewhere. And there's been so many of those that I can't, off the top of my head, remember which one. But Dewey Evans said that he went to see the Dr. Michael Hall's reports, or what he was getting ready to potentially use, and or he went to see some kind of form of documentation. God knows why, if he was allowed to do that or whatever he was doing, or there was some interaction. And he came back to the prosecution's team, as it were, and said, don't worry, they're not going to call him. They won't call him. I've seen what they've got there. He won't be called. What the full meaning of that is, the thing with Dewey Evans is just he's just such a wild card. It's just hard to know. He's and my prediction is this, and I don't know if anyone will agree with this. You may do. That they will all turn on him eventually, as they should. But there's so many other people to blame for what's happened as well. But he will end up being the weak point. In other words, the police will turn on him and the consultants will turn on him and say, well, consultants will say, well, we didn't say anybody murdered anybody. It was your expert Evans who said that. But we didn't say it. We just handed it over to the police. We were just worried. And the police will say, oh, well, we're not medical people. That's why we got Dewey Evans and paid him a whole shed load of money. And that's why we got Dr. Bowen to double check it. Well, rubber stamp it. Sorry, I'm getting off on I'm speaking too much. A lot of hospital prisons near cemetery were and other places. Oh, right. A lot of hospitals and prisons near a cemetery. Yeah, that's interesting. I used to live in an old mental hospital. It'd been decommissioned, although I probably should have been in the actual one. But there was a cemetery that had its own cemetery that was up in Wales, just outside Wales, a few years ago. Interesting place, actually, one of the old asylums. Mechanically, air pumped into the stomach is more forceful than Lucy could have possibly have done unnoticed. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Pat. Lucy wouldn't have been responsible for placing the tube into the stomach. It's a doctor's job on a small human. Yeah, absolutely. Message retracted. Operation Burning Falcon. One of the major issues I have with the investigation is that I can't find where the police ever processed the neonatal ward as a crime scene. They didn't. I don't think they did. I don't think they did Operation Merlin Falcon in any way at all. And moreover, as so many other people have said, people who, if not suspects, were certainly just should have been treated as witnesses, actually were drawn in as active participants of the investigation, i.e. Breary being the main one, and with Jayaram as a close second. Effectively, this is what I was doing in videos over a year ago, is saying that effectively those doctors, in conjunction with Evans, whatever the level of collusion was, they kind of run that. They ran that investigation, for want of another way of putting it. They kind of ran it with the kind of mirage of the police doing stuff, because the police acknowledged they got no clue about the medical side of it. So if they've got no clue about that, who is it that's orchestrating it? Who is it that's making the decisions about what's chargeable? It's not the police. It's never going to be the police. It's always going to be down to the people that they've chosen to get involved. I hope someone, Astrid says, I hope someone has the courage to stand up at Thirlwall inquiry. They don't agree with the verdict, and the reason they defended her was because she didn't harm anyone. I think there was someone who kind of did that. I can't remember who it was now, or there was a couple of people. There was someone who came, I don't know if they went all the way with it, but they kind of went all the way retrospectively with that. And they said that, well, they were supporting Lucy at that time because at that time they didn't believe that she'd done anything wrong. So in other words, they had no doubts about her, and they always thought she was a very good nurse, and still think that today. So in part, there were people that kind of did that to a certain extent. The ones that have still, I don't know what the status is with Alison Kelly or Karen Rees, because I think one or either of them, or even both, were taken away from their duties as well, because they've been massively affected by this. I can't remember which one it was, whether it was Karen Reese or Alison Kelly. There was one that was kind of put on gardening leave or whatever the phrase is. So that's that from Astrid. Sorry, I'm getting a bit behind. And then Astrid says, they won't toe the party line, and see how the room yes men react to that. As a free country, UK citizens have the right to disagree with the court. Yeah, there'll still be hangings. That's the point. See, in decades gone by, Lucy would have ended up being hanged. Thanks, Wesley. Yeah. Well, she would have potentially been hanged, wouldn't she? You know, one intubation took 7 attempts. Absolutely, Chris. Yeah. Did COCH manage intubation without calling our hospital for assistance? There was that one case, wasn't there, of those 7 attempts of intubation, and they listed all the different titles of the doctors that, you know, they were the junior doctors, and there were 2 others, and there were like these 7 attempts made, and then there was someone who came from the level 3 unit, whether it was the Liverpool Women's Hospital or Alder Hey, I can't remember which one, but the level 3 unit, and did it straight away. But then there's this thing about only a certain number of attempts should be made, you know, in terms of the potential damaging effects on the baby's throat to doing. And I think that applies to catheters as well, that there was these multiple attempts, because people there wasn't this, what they keep calling the senior cover, there wasn't that there. So you've got a lot of these junior doctors there, and then I think, as Dr. Michael McConville points out, a lot of them were left unsupervised, essentially, and they were having to ring up Gibbs at home, all this kind of thing. If one intubation to that would have been suffering greatly as the brain starves of oxygen in 3 minutes, there would have been a team and less an emergency ambulance at a home. Even Evans said that, Chris was saying, he would have shut down the NNU if he was in charge in the Sweeney interview. That says a lot, right? I haven't listened to that yet, actually. I should listen to that. There's something, I've got a real blockage with listening to Evans at the moment. I listened to all his interviews prior to the most recent ones, but I just, yeah. So that's interesting. So he would have shut it down on what basis? But not on the basis there was a serial killer there, but on the basis it was not acting. It was not able to act safely. That's another omission from the Thirlwell inquiry. Is Dr. Alison Timmis, who wrote the email to Tony Chambers saying this is an unsafe unit. Unless I've missed that, because I may have missed that. I don't think she's been called either. She should have been called and asked about her email, and in which she states very clearly that she believes children will die and staff will have breakdowns because it's unsafe and nobody's listening. And she doesn't mean nobody's listening about a serial killer. She means nobody's listening because children are dying because there's too many high acuity babies and not enough staff and not enough cover, and we're overwhelmed. Sorry, I'm going off on one. Chris is, yeah, I read that bit. Maria Carroll, it's strange that the defense agreed with the prosecution that could only have come from an external source. Were they forced in this position? This is this concept that they call the agreed fact, and this is what other people have said, and I totally believe it's doom. It spells absolute doom for Lucy. How do you expect, just in common sense terms, how do you expect the jury, if you've got the defense and the and the prosecution both agreeing that there's somebody out there deliberately trying to poison babies, but there's only one person in the dock, and then she's accused of all these other things. It just pushes them. It pushes. And in an ideal world, it wouldn't. But human nature being what it is, it just pushes them into. It's a tipping point, and that's why those so-called insulin cases came back first, and they were all 11 remaining jury members voted yes for that as guilty. The trauma that Lucy has endured, her psychological well-being will be immense. Yes, immense trauma. Prayers to her, absolutely, Bumblebee. Was she on medication or serial withdrawal in court? I don't know, but you can only imagine that. I know if it was me, I would have been, I'm not sure I would have been functional at all. But she maintained her dignity, she maintained her clarity, she maintained the simplicity of truth. Because the truth isn't made of fancy speeches. The truth is about turning around, as she did in the 2024 trial at the end, and saying, I'm innocent. That's what the truth is. It's not complicated speeches and fancy phrases or raging, it's I'm innocent. And that gesture she does, which the court artist. John Sweeney is a great interviewer. Oh, I missed that bit. I have to scroll back. Where am I now? With Dewey Evans. Yeah, I should listen to that. Thanks, Wesley. I should listen to that. Conspicuous by her absence. Oh, do you mean, Chris, do you mean Dr. Alison Timmis? Yeah, if you mean her, absolutely. Hospital failings. Christopher, yes, agree. Hi, Mark. Still can't understand how the post-mortem ignore for the better. Well, yeah. How do you do that even? How do you, with notes years down the line, and as Evans typifies them, shabby notes, shabby, out of order, upside down, some missing, some hard to read, notes that have gone through from the hospital to the police to Evans, then he has to print them out again. So that's the sequence that I'm inferring. Hospital photocopies them all under instruction of someone. Because that's an admin job, isn't it? I've worked in a hospital, and that's an admin job. And who's directing that? Well, who's choosing the cases to send? Well, it's Breary. It's got to be someone there. It's not going to be. It's not the person from the admin department deciding it. They're sent to the police. Police keep hold of those physical photocopies, and they, weirdly, or maybe not weirdly, they scan those in and send those electronically to Dewey Evans in Wales. And he prints them off because he says they're all out of order and they're all in a shabby state. Yeah, why were the postmortems? That's a massive aspect to this that should be what's that old phrase? Well, there's more red flags in this case than a communist parade, and that's one of the biggest flags, isn't it? The postmortems. And he was meant to be a well thought of pathologist, Dr. George Kakai. And the coroner didn't want to reperform them. He says, I'm not here to kind of to check on the work that's already been done. So they didn't even want to reinvestigate those postmortems in terms of the institution that performed them. Not complex equals the truth. Yeah, I agree. Trouble is, we're conversely, we're put in this weird, and Lucy Letby is and her family is and the defence is in this weird net of undoing all these intricate arguments, but they're actually lies. It's like you've got to kind of de-web yourself, Ali M says, I wonder how much farther David Davis has got. Yeah, that's something I've not heard anything about much lately. Maybe there's stuff going on and I've maybe missed it, but because I've not been on Twitter. But I thought David Davis was really getting up ahead of steam, but maybe he is. Maybe he's working in the background. I really hope that David Davis has got a connection with Mark McDonald in terms of this, and that they're kind of working together, and obviously in different capacities. What do these hearts mean? Certain notes for public can be redacted and withheld. Yeah, that's true. Chris says, so important Jew is not a pathologist. Yeah, he's not a pathologist, and he's not a neonatologist, and he's 15 years out of the game, and he thinks babies are very simple things. Babies are very simple things, really. Not a lot can go wrong with them. You know, I mean, this is what Dr. McConville, Dr. Michael McConville, you can tell that as, and I listened to it, you know, the podcasts he did with brilliant Peter Elston before that. They did like about 23 podcasts, and you can tell there's this gradual, it's changed from a kind of, how shall I put this? They absolutely realize what a nutter, what an absolute, everyone realizes what a nutter Evans is. And some people are kind of holding back a little bit, and even Philip Hammond does in The Private Eye, because he's taking the piss out of him. You know that he's not doing it absolutely directly, but Philip Hammond in those Private Eye articles is effectively taking the piss out of Evans, as he should do, because he's risible. He's a risible character, a dangerous, very dangerous risible character is Evans. Sorry, I don't want to get on my soapbox. So yeah, also as a young person who was always on her, yeah, like many others, and yet there was zero evidence on the phone that she ever searched for anything related to murder. Well, exactly, Astrid, yeah, nothing at all. There's nothing about her. There's nothing about her that is pathological. There's nothing about her. I had this, it's not that I had it, but it's just something that always struck me personally, is that they've gone for someone who's conspicuously innocent, who's a very, by nature, very, very innocent and truthful and honest and conscientious person. That's what they've gone for. They're not gone for someone who's little bit woo, little bit way, and like making mistakes and doesn't care and is kind of would be happy to cheat how much time she's been on there. They've gone for someone who's scrupulous. Actually, they've gone for someone who's scrupulously innocent and scrupulously moral. And there's a kind of a weird, distorted human potential for that to happen in groups, you know. And no doubt it happened in witch trials in, you know, the 1600s, that people were very, very helpful and kind and nice and honest and truthful and decent to other people were targeted and accused of being witches, you know. And she was a young person. This is something to remember as well. 25-year-old, you know. She's gone obviously from college, sixth form, to doing a degree, finishes a degree at 21. At 22, she's starting, 21, 22, she's starting in that neonatal unit in 3rd of January, I think it is, in 2012. And by 2015, she's in her mid-20s, trying to get her life together, is getting her life together, has got her life together in that way, you know, a very independent person, very strong person, doing all these hours, getting her own home, got her lovely cats that she loves. It's heartbreaking what they've done to her. Peter Hitchens, he's done a lot, and he was there last year as well. And then obviously because he's in a different position, being a formal journalist, he stopped talking about it until they lifted the reporting restrictions. he got annoyed with me once. He blocked me on Twitter on my old account because I took him to task. I just said, well, why can't you perhaps I acknowledge there was some it's different for someone who's an actual journalist. I'm just a bloke in a bungalow in Somerset, but he's someone that if he wrote an article about it when they were reporting restrictions, it's got real ramifications. Whether for me it hasn't, so I did take that on board. But I was a bit. Hester, hello Hester. I believe the case against Lucy is totally flawed and that she should be freed. I agree with you. But does anyone else fear that this case will be used against the NHS? We all know that they want to Yes, it could well be, couldn't it? It could well be used against the NHS. And just to sort of move to a slightly other thing that could be used against, some other people have mentioned, is that it could be used against the right to jury trials. Some people have flagged that up as a potential as well, that this could end up with an attack on the validity or the reliability of jury trials, i.e. juries aren't capable of dealing with this kind of information. And in a sense, in this trial, the jury were effectively, well, they were swamped. They were just swamped with cases, and they were led into the decision that I believe the system wanted. Personally, that's my view. But yeah, it could well be used against. But it could well open up. It could well open up issues at neonatal units across the whole country. I mean, in Dr. Scott McLachlan's Substack a few months ago, when he did this research on, I think it's 13 or 17 comparative NHS trusts, and he looks at two other trusts. There's the Sherwood Trust, and there's one in Blackpool, and they've got figures as high as, and in one case higher than in these 2 years that can only be apparently explained by a serial killer, and yet there were no serial killers convicted in those trusts. So there are issues potentially in other trusts. It's kind of like a Russian doll situation, and potentially a domino effect. I know I'm mixing metaphors here, but there are other things, things that can fall out of this. I just don't know that we fully can know what that might be, actually. And the Thirlwall inquiry seems to be a way of trying to manage the narrative thus far, but it's not doing it perfectly, is it? It's a lot of leakage, whether it's deliberately or there's inescapable leakage. In other words, they just couldn't control it. But there is leakage coming out, which is helping Lucy, I think, and helping the truth. Get on that soapbox, yeah. I've never seen a soapbox. Operation Merlin Fog, and I've been very curious as to why the police switched interviewers. I believe something happened in the first interview. The police didn't want the public to see who conducted the first interview. I'm not sure. That's a great question. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about that in terms of the staff being used for interviewing and why they might have changed them. It might just have been a strategy that they thought, because I just think they just got excited. I was going to make a video about this, and I don't want to do gratuitous videos about it. I mean, I've done a lot of videos about this story and case, and I don't want to do anything gratuitous, but it strikes me that I think there's a kind of a sense of lots of elements of this being hooked on the drama of it, and the police play into that as well. The police, being human beings and thinking of their own careers, etc., I think they can be hooked on the drama of things, and I think they got caught up in that as well, caught up in the idea of a big case to crack. And maybe this idea of changing interviewers was like, I don't know, they've gone on courses to say that's a good idea. We need to, we've got Lucy. We know it's her. We've just got to get through to her. Let's try the female interviewer. Let's try the male one. Let's try someone else. Maybe it's just that kind of psychological cat and mouse stuff that they think is going to work because they've kind of already decided. I think for them it was almost like a fait accompli, I think. And they were building the case. It took them 3 bloody years to get to the charge from the first arrest, didn't it? No, 2018, no, 2 years. But for the beginning of the investigation, May 2017, to the charge, it took 3 years, didn't it? Just over 3 years. Maybe it was because she was beige. Yeah, this beige thing. I mean, I'm beige, as you can tell. The room's beige, or taupe, or magnolia. What's wrong with being beige? It's because this is the weird thing. Nobody who writes these, I know you're quoting, Chris, from what they've said in newspaper reports. Nobody puts themselves in the place of Lucy imaginatively, emotionally, imaginatively, and think, fucking hell, I've been accused of mass murder here. Sorry for swearing. I'll try to cut that out. I've been accused of murdering babies here. I've been accused of one of the worst things you can be accused of. And I've been in prison for 3 years. And the public and the journalists don't put themselves in that position, and they think that they're criticizing her performance like she's going onto a stage. There's such a disconnect there for me. Bumblebee, when you've been bullied and ganged up upon, absolutely, you're diligent to the care you provided to patient and other envy you. I think there was envy there, yeah. There was one nurse that was interviewed who since has left Countess of Chester Hospital, and I didn't like the cut of her jib. I'm just going by my own intuition, and she was really quite not super damning of Lucy, but kept on. There was kind of like digs. She was this kind of personality. I didn't really know. I think there was envy there. Yeah. Then they traumatize you, and eventually your mind will play games. Hence, why he was writing. Why she was writing? Did you mean by she was writing, Bumblebee? I'm sorry, if that's a reference to the counselling notes. Ali M says, did the police or hospital ever check the computer history of her login to see if she was accessing patient records of any of these babies? Well, I think she would have been doing that as a matter of course, wouldn't she? This is something that when Dewey Evans says, I never heard the name Lucy Letby, and he says this in all his 2023 interviews, I never heard the name. It's the most salient name or initials that he's seeing on all these, on thousands of bits of paper or on all these medical notes. It's the most salient name. So do the math, as they say, in terms of whether you believe Dewey Evans, But yeah, she would have been as a matter of course. I was saying that do the math thing about Dewey Evans. The math isn't mathing. Yeah, she would have been accessing patient records. I'm assuming she could only do that through the internal system, and she would have been doing that as a matter of course. And Wesley Watley says, most qualified on board and paying mortgage with overtime, nurse Letby, yeah, and doing nights, and that's crucial as well because most deaths in hospital, including babies, happen at nights, and she was doing nights a lot as well. Exactly. There were so many bank nurses there. There were so many ones that didn't have that extra qualification that she had, and that's a thing that nurse, I've forgotten her first name, but nurse Warden, I think, who was there in the 90s, who says that there was quite high levels of death in the 90s on that unit, which presumably it was a level 2 unit then. And she was like a high band nurse there, like a band It would have been a band 8 or something. And they got rid of all these high band nurses, didn't they? And that's another aspect of the critique that's going on. Sorry if I'm talking a lot of nonsense. Well, I know it's not nonsense, but I might be rabbiting a bit. I've never done this before live. Just read this on the Nurse Letby. Richard Gill, I love Richard Gill, great guy. Top contributor. He was hardly at Brewery. He was hardly ever there. He hardly knew what was going on. He had an interest in neonatology. Yeah, I heard this. There was no specific neonatologist there, but there was someone that had an interest in neonatologists. There's someone that couldn't be called a neonatologist. I'm assuming that was Brewery. He is the neonatology lead, or he is the neonatology unit lead, and JRM is the pediatric lead, as they call it, I think, isn't it? Astrid, got to go. Oh, thank you, Astrid, for coming on to the live. God bless. Thanks for being here. Good night. Bumble BBT to clear ahead of the rum units. Words you might have been trying to process thing. Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. Why was the camera the parent raised money for never used in this unit? Because the NHS knew there was issues and wanted to keep it quiet. Yeah, that camera, I mean, I was curious about that, and some other people said, yeah, it's a non-starter because it's a very specific, from mother directly to baby to cot, it's a very specific link that could be linked from other parts of the hospital. I don't know whether it could have been linked from, I don't know what the computer linkage system was, whether it was linkable from outside the hospital or not. It was donated by the mum that was in another unit who was too unwell to see her baby in the neonatal unit, wasn't it? And she had a bakery, and she sold a lot of cakes to raise money for this camera. I'm assuming it was used, and then somebody else said the other day that it was put in a cupboard or something. It was hardly ever used. I don't know. There's stuff that we don't. It's hard to track down. I'm really behind with the comments. I'm sorry. He originally studied engineering. Yeah, that's Brewery, isn't it? Yeah, he did. Yeah, that's right. He studied engineering. Then he moved to. He started with engineering, and then he moved to accusing innocent people of murder. Sorry, that's probably a facetious comment. I wonder if any of the families believe LL is innocent. DMG, soul togetherness. Thank you. Yeah, I wonder that as well. I really do wonder that. They must be in an awful state as well. For the ones that don't believe, the ones that are having doubts, and the one that absolutely have been pushed into this belief wrongly, I believe, that Lucy Letby is guilty, and that are upset that people are trying to speak on behalf of Lucy. On both sides of it, those parents are being put through the mill again, aren't they? They're not being left alone. These BBC Dramatic Award-winning things are very imaginary plays. Is that to do with the panorama thing, Wesley? I'm not sure. Yes, to join the two messages with ... connected. Counselling is private and it should have been confidential, unless she admitted to putting someone in danger and risk. Why didn't she have confidentiality? Exactly. I think they should not have been admissible in court as medical documents between effectively a therapist and their patient in that sense, or a counsellor and their patient. Hello, Pearl. Hi there. I live near COCH and the maternity unit. A neonatal unit has always been a terrible. Yes, I've heard that as well. Has not had a good reputation. I wouldn't have my kids there because of that. Yeah, I've heard of that as well. Fortunately. Hi, Robin Hood. Yeah. Oh gosh, it's 2 a.m. So you're an hour ahead of me. It's 1 o'clock here. Good night, Robin Hood. Thanks very much for joining in the live, and lovely to see you. And thanks for the tip about the screen recorder thing. I really appreciate it. Good night. Bumblebee, was her therapy through the NHS? Yes, it was. It was through there was somebody specific. What was her name? I've forgotten the name. There's so many names here. There was somebody specific in, not occupational therapy, but it's part of the, was it occupational therapy department? It was in-house. It was in-house. Yeah, it was definitely in-house, and the person did give some very interesting. I've yet to look at it all in detail, but I've got the gist of it. They gave some very good evidence at Thirlwall, stating that they kind of went kind of above and beyond what they usually do, and was in contact by text and WhatsApp, in a little WhatsApp group with Lucy every week, and was supporting her because she felt so alone. And that was someone who gives some really strong and courageous evidence to Thirlwall. So yeah, the camera footage hidden, stored where? That's the question I asked. I don't know if it was ever recorded, were files made. It's a bit of a long shot, I know. Thanks, Bumblebee. Go on more than YouTube in case they close you down due to the narrative of the UK. Lovely to see you, Bumblebee, and thank you very much. Yeah, I'm trying to be careful of the YouTube terms. That's right, I'm trying to do that. Mrs. Miss de Burger, that's it. Thank you so much, Operation Merlin Falcon. Thank you. You're totally on top of all the granular detail there. And yeah, de Burger, yeah, she was the in-house person that got involved when anyone was accused of anything, effectively, and was looking after Lucy Letby's a state of being, really. She was looking after that, and as the evidence she gave at Thirlwall was to say it wasn't her job to decide on the merits or otherwise, but was just to look after Lucy Letby as an employee of the NHS. Police drama versus reality. TV subdues minds, accept the script without question, or to accept the script without question, at least a docile believing. Yeah, I think there's a lot in that, Wesley. I think we've been sort of programmed. Weirdly, there's that phrase about is it fiction following? I'm losing it a bit here. Truth and fiction. That the idea is there's a weird kind of conundrum here in which I think the police are acting in sort of weirdly fictional universes and fictional ways, and believing in their own powers of deduction, and perhaps have been informed by this sort of this dramatization of their role in a weird kind of way, and thereby have lost critical thinking. I think I got there in the end. Bumblebee T, she felt alone and out of depth with all this going on. No one she could talk to safely. No. I mean, she was talking to Karen Rees, and Karen Rees was meeting her all through the period that before she was suspended from the NHS. So all through from 2016 to her first arrest, so 2 years, Karen Rees was apparently meeting her regularly. And that's why Karen Rees has been blamed for a lot of this as well, in terms of she's been criticised. I think, I can't remember if it's Karen Rees or the other lady, the other nursing manager, has been taken off, lost her job or suspended. Anyway, I'm dotting around a bit here, a little bit. I'm not totally on top of all the information. Yeah. So she did seem to have a sort of safe port of call there, and with Mr. Berger as well, as Operation Merlin Falcon says. Lucy, Trevor, hi Trevor. Lucy was the obvious scapegoat. Yeah, I agree. She worked most shifts, and Brewer and Durham needed someone to blame for their negligence. The defence team were to blame the complete failure of the defence. I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. I can't understand it. Nobody will say it. That they'll never say it, because they're not going to say why didn't they call Professor Michael Hall. Professor Mike Hall. I know the phrase 2 minutes. Who was Karen Rees? Karen Rees was Karen Rees was one of the nursing managers that Karen Rees said Jayaram. No, sorry, beg your pardon. I'll start again. Breary said he went to Karen Rees and he said, "You've got to get Lucy Letby off the unit." There's an interview you can see on YouTube about this, in which Karen Rees is kind of, her face is in shadow, and Breary said, sorry, Karen Rees. I'll start again. Breary said that he said to Karen Rees, "Get Lucy Letby off the unit, or if you don't do that, you've got to be responsible for what happens to the babies." And Karen Rees has said in this interview, in which her face is in shadow, he never said that to me, and I never would have agreed to that. And it goes back to this draw as doom thing as well that Breary was talking about. It's an absolute mess and a basket case. But there's a great amount of contention between the nursing management and those consultants in terms of what was happening at the time, and the fact that the nursing management weren't being told anything substantive. They were being given nothing other than this effective kind of order to remove a nurse for no reason. And that's why Karen Rees said to Breary, "Well, I can't remove her. There's no evidence. You're not telling me there's anything wrong with her competencies." Chris says, "I'm interested to know if consultants agreed to nurse practitioners should go." That's a good question. Yeah, that's going back in time a bit, isn't it? Whether they should go or not. That's with this kind of what they called a restructuring, or there's another word that was used, that Michelle Warden, the nurse practitioner who was one of the ones that went in this restructuring. It's just a pseudo phrase, isn't it? But what the consultants' view of that was, this thing about the consultants only doing 2 ward rounds a week, where they didn't seem to be bothered that they weren't doing enough. They didn't seem to be bothered. They should have been going to management saying, they should have been proactively going to management, shouldn't they? And been saying to the management, "We've only got the capacity to do 2 ward rounds a week, and it's not enough. You've got to stop all these high acuity twins and triplets being sent here, because we haven't got the senior cover for them." Philip Swain. Hi, Philip. I've seen a deterioration in the quality of Cheshire Police over the past 10 years or so. This case seems to align with this. Yeah, a lot of other people that I was following on Twitter, well, I still am, but I just haven't been there for have a lot to say about Cheshire Police. Were Cheshire Police involved with Mr. Malkinson, or was that Greater Manchester Police? I can't remember which one it was. In the Andrew Malkinson case, I'm not sure if it was Greater Manchester Police or the Cheshire one. Lucy should have had an independent therapist to deal with grief and trauma. Yeah, that would have been better. And do you know what, Bumblebee? Had she had that, I don't think they would have accessed. Well, I don't know if Lucy Letby's got her notes in her home. I see what Cheshire Police done that as a form of burglary, taking those notes, those private notes, and then the prosecution getting hold of them, the CPS getting hold of them. Well, thank you so much. I think I'm going to bring it to a close now. I'm really very, very touched and very grateful for everybody who's come on to listen. I'm sorry if I've gabbled a bit. I've tried to engage with all the points that have been raised, and I really appreciate it. And so 2 ward rounds a week. Here's the thing, Bumblebee, is that Here's the weird thing now, and this is something that has been reported since. When they reduced the level to a level 1 unit, then they started doing daily ward rounds, the consultants. So they got lower acuity babies, they've got fewer cots, they've got more space, they've got new rooms there. Everything's easier for them effectively, and they go to 1 ward round a day, whereas they were like being flooded with these very high acuity babies and twins and triplets. And there's this idea that people have thought quite early on that there's a knock-on effect of these temporary closure of North Wales neonatal units, which meant that a lot of babies were coming over to Chester Hospital that would not otherwise have been there in 2015 and 2016. Sorry. As an adult head consultant, minimum twice a week when she had no expertise in my health condition and ignored signs I was very unwell. As an adult, as an adult head consultant, minimum. Oh gosh, right. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, that's it. And that's why things can get missed, isn't it? As they weren't for you, I'm sorry to hear. And obviously they were missed for the babies. And so then they suddenly rock up and they say, well, what's been going on? All the junior doctors. You've got these situations at Countess of Chester where you've got these weekends in which you've just got basically one junior doctor between obstetrics, or one, certainly no consultant there at all for the whole hospital, being shared between obstetrics and neonatal unit. And Lucy Letby is one of the most experienced nurses, and other bank nurses coming in. Michael Hall, yeah. Well, bless you all, and thank you all, and I'm going to end the stream now. And thank you all so much. I'm very touched by that people turned up for it. I've never done it before. I'll have to sort of find a way to invite people. Yeah, Sunday sustenance premiere. Thanks, Wesley. I appreciate that. Inadequate staffing in most hospitals. Yeah, there is, absolutely. And I know this myself through both working in the NHS, but also in terms of my mum's care, and particularly at weekends as well. Weekends are very... Thank you, Pat. And thank you, everyone. So good night, and sleep well, and God bless. And thanks very much to everybody. I'm going to end the stream. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye. I think I just click end stream. Good night.